Hello and welcome to Audionautic Deep Space Network, episode 60. This is our weekly music production, technology, and marketing podcast. Today we're taking a look at some new plugins, as well as what might be a prelude to what's to come with amp and synth models and emulations with AI. Kind of a trip. We've also got the latest, of course, in music marketing and a production round robin from Curtis today at the end. Thanks to everyone who's joining us live. Let us know what you've been up to this week in the chat. If any gears caught your eye, I saw they just announced the new MPC. It's like the X special edition. It's got that like retro gray color. Looks pretty cool, but that's not on the docket today because I just saw it. But yeah, my name is Sun Warper, and with me today is Eon Lake. How are you?
Hello, I'm grumpy.
Oh, well, that's the way we like it, I think. What's up?
Yeah.
What are you grumpy about today?
I'm grumpy about VSTs today.
Ooh.
They're supposed to be easier than hardware, and I've discovered a way that they're not.
Tell us more, sir.
Well, planning a live set, I'm wanting to run one VST because I want to be easy on the CPU. I can't risk anything causing the set to jitter or whatever, or any audio dropout. And I want to do program changes. It's a bit of a weird thing, I know, but maybe a different sound on each track. I can't find a way of getting a VST to actually honor a program change when you send it to it. They just don't seem to want to do it the way that hardware does.
And this is Ableton, right?
Yeah.
Chat, I know we've got some Ableton users. If anybody's got some help, let us know in the
It's all there in the
or
clips.
chat.
You can set banks and program numbers and everything, and the VST just goes.
It's like that John Travolta meme, you know, where he's in
exactly. Yeah. Really throwing my head in. So I'm beginning to think I just gonna have to take a small synth with me and use that instead.
All right. Well, that's not a bad idea, though. You could even take like a little Korg NTS1, you know, that little just pocket size. We got a few people in the chat. Just wanted to say hello to Survey Channel and Thomas Haur. How are you guys doing? Let us know in the chat. And also with us today is my Audionautic co-pilot, Curtis. What's going on?
Yo, you're right. How you doing, mate?
I'm all right, but we're asking how you are. How are you?
Yeah.
I'm good. It's been a hell of a week. Lots of teching, lots of like pushing buttons and like putting cables into spiders and putting those spiders into mixing desks and making people sound lovely. And that's great. It's good fun. Like we spend a lot of time in the studio. We spend a lot of time like turning knobs and turning things and doing things very delicately. So it's nice to get out. The sun is now shining, and to like just stand out in a big field with a mixing desk and like just tech. And when stuff goes wrong and stuff doesn't go to plan, you just run with it. I love it. It's great fun.
Yeah. You thrive in the chaos, right?
Everything is chaos. Everything is chaos. So yeah, I'm loving that. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. What about you, Samuel? What's up?
Well, I've been in the chaos. I got my new laptop, and I've been dealing with the chaos of VSTs, similar to Eon Lake, and most specifically, iLok.
Yeah.
The fun of iLok, because I was telling Curtis before we came live, my Sound Toys, you get 2 activations, right? And you know, we always sing the praises of Sound Toys. And apparently my activation obviously is on this desktop right here. And then I was trying to get it on the laptop. Well, there's an activation on my 2013 computer that I haven't had on in 4 or 5 years, and it doesn't work. So I had to send a thing. You can't just deactivate on iLok. You have to send a notice. You either have to have the computer operational to deactivate, or you have to send a notice through iLok to every single company that you use through iLok. And then each company has to say yay or nay to letting you deactivate that license. So I got a few back instantly, like probably the larger companies. And then Sound Toys took a few days, but I got it. So I was like, oh, thank you, because I love Sound Toys, and that would have been a big bummer for the moment. But yeah, the computer's awesome. It's a MacBook Pro 2023, the M2. And I was surprised. The speakers are crazy good. They got some serious low end. Like coming from a 2015 laptop, the MacBook Pro, to this one, it is just night and day. It's crazy.
There we go.
Yeah,
it's interesting. The notion of obviously Sound Toys is wonderful, and they have a great like sound to them. The sound has a great sound to them. But there is always it's a pain. Like I still haven't done my Sound Toys effects rack since my new one. And I mean, I've been for like the saturator, for example, I've been using the Blias stuff that we got.
Bliss, yeah. I got to download all of those still. Today I'm going to do the Yuhi because I need Diva. And I really want to test how many instances. I got to do the Diva test. How many instances of Diva on the M2 can I get running all at once? That's what I want to see. So I might post it on like my stories or something. Also want to say, hey, we got Jason with a nice wave in the chat. What's going on, Jason?
Hello, dude. I'd like to see. All right, I'd like the people in the chat, if you're listening here. Hi, it's nice to see you. How many instances on Diva can we get on a MacBook Pro 2023 with an M2 chip? Has anyone got any guesses? Any guesses of how many Divas Sunwarper can get before his computer just goes no?
Hopefully, it doesn't just explode.
Isn't Diva the one that's modular and you can slot in bits from various famous synths?
That's Zebra. That's Zebra,
right.
I think.
Okay, so one instance of Diva is a set amount of CPU, right?
Yeah.
I'm thinking something like 15 to 20.
15 to 20. Okay. We've got 15 to 20. All right. We've got, we'll give the chat a second. I'm a bit more optimistic. I'm thinking something like 30, 35.
Svrjcek's got you beat with 55.
Yeah. Well,
Thomas says depends on the patch. So yeah, that's very true. I'm going to try to do one of their stock ones that is pretty intensive because I just want to see out of curiosity what we can get. Oh, Thomas says 35. Okay. We'll see. We'll see.
I do hope that Survey Channel is right and that it is 55 and that would be absolutely amazing. I really do hope it's that. Just in the sense of like, can you imagine 55 instances of Diva in your chain? That would be amazing.
Easier than getting the synths in your studio, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Exactly. Definitely.
Tune in next week and we'll find out. I suppose that's what's going to happen.
And cost of cables alone.
So hello to everyone in the chat. It's lovely to see you. Survey Channel, Thomas, Jason. It's wonderful. Thank you ever so much for joining us today. And J Bell as well is in the chat as well. With what seems to be
trophy yellow smiley.
It does come up on the actual YouTube feed, just not on our StreamYard feed, which is interesting. J Bell, you've just tuned in. We're in the idea of how many instances of Diva can Sunwarper get on his brand new M2 2023 MacBook Pro? Yeah, let us know. Okay, is there anything that we need to do before we get into the news? Is there anything we've missed, or should we go ahead?
No, let's get into the news.
Okay, all right. We'll start with the one at the very top, just because, I mean, that's the best way to do these things sometimes. We have a brand new instance of hang on, slides. I'm trying to talk and bring up the presentation at the same time, and it's obviously not working for me. There we go. We have a brand new thing coming out of our favorite plugin company, Waves Audio. We all know how much we all love Waves. Everyone had their disdain for Waves a few weeks back.
Well, for the subscription rollout, that was going to reduce the no more buying of individual plugins. That was the big controversy. The plugins are cool though. I like them. It's just those
that was
issues.
Subsequently backtracked. We should probably say. Yeah,
definitely. It was. You can. I don't know if they've rolled out the being able to purchase individually again. They said they were working on it. So yeah. Oh, and J Bell saying 10 to 15 for Diva. So we'll see.
10 to 15. All right. We'll have to see. We'll have to tune in next week. So this is their new Super Rack Performer, which is an application which you plug directly into a mixing console. This is the Behringer X32, I believe. And basically allows you to change and install and create different effects chains on different channels using your computer, essentially. So it uses it as like this software effects rack, which allows you to process in a live capacity and allows you to change through different songs and different ideas. You have different presets. It's a really interesting way. You can run up to 64 stereo plugin racks. Minimal latency if you're doing it in a live show or anything like that. And it's basically this app that's built for live streaming. So you can take your laptop into a gig or into a club or wherever you are playing. You can plug into the local console. It can patch up with your different channels on the mixer itself, be it vocals, guitar, or whatever, and allow you to manipulate and change in the box as opposed to carting everything around with you. It's a wonderful little idea, and it's only for $100, which I thought was quite interesting. So I wanted to bring it to your attention. I haven't seen anything else like this. I might be ignorant, but I haven't seen anything else like this.
Yeah, like, what do you think about it?
What do I think? That's what I was wondering, really. What do I think about this? I suppose it gives you the opportunity to use your laptop as additional effects processing on a live setup. Is that something you want to do a lot? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Perhaps it's a bit niche, but then again, it's not one of those things, like you say, it's not priced out of, it's quite cheap. So even if you have a slight use for it, it's not an absolute killer. The fact that it creates a host to run Waves plugins is a bit interesting. Just because of the issues that I've had with licensing and stuff in the past, I think I'd be more excited about it if it was someone else.
So because it's Waves, it's because it's Waves.
Yeah, I mean, it's like somewhat said at the beginning. I had the similar issues with keys on a dead machine and having to contact people and so on. Sound Toys sorted me out with mine. All the ones I really liked, I managed to get transferred, and the Waves ones, I just gave up in the end and don't use them anymore. I don't know. It's interesting. It's interesting. I don't know about. They say also about getting your studio sound live as well. I'm thinking about what it would take to actually port that. Because most of it is done differently in the studio, or is it? I don't know. If you, I'm not a Waves user. I doubt it's ever going to be useful to me. But I suppose it could be if you rely on those plugins a lot and you want to be able to take them live with you, and you've got a board that will support it. I already feel like I've said "if" a few times there.
Well, again, we're just reading through this real quick, so some of these things may be possibilities. Yeah. This is just Curtis brought it to the table, and we're
I like
talking.
The fact that the connectivity is just USB.
Yeah, that's cool. And real quick, talking about are there other alternatives and things like that? Survey Channel says it sounds kind of like Analog Lab. I'm not familiar with that, but maybe that's something. And J-Bell, I missed this. You said, how would you play the music, though? What is that in reference to? Sorry, the chats were piling up, so I missed that. And David is in the chat. He says, hi, everyone. David, welcome. What's going on?
Nice one. Yeah, it's an interesting one. Sunwapper, what do you make of it?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't see much for me need for it. For my live stuff, I've been translating or switching more and more to just the SP or just an SP and like a circuit sending some MIDI to one synth or something like that. The less I have to worry about, the better. Cause I'd rather fit one thing that doesn't cost my laptop was a lot of money. I'd rather not bring that anywhere, to do anything. So just have an SP and go from there. Yeah. What about you, Curtis? You brought it to the table. What did you think about this?
I think it's interesting. I think I've been doing a lot of teching recently. I've been doing a lot of sound engineering on the fly and stuff like that. And sound engineering for other bands, and they've all got a sound and something like that. So having the ability just to rock up and go into any desk, be it from wherever, and then instead of having to reroute the club and reroute everything through my laptop or anything like that, just kind of clip it in as an addition. And so I've got my vocal chain, I've got my guitar chain for the band that I'm working for, that kind of thing, and I can switch that through. I kind of like that idea. It's a shame that it's linked purely to Waves. I understand obviously why. It's a Waves product. It makes sense that it's only on Waves, and in contention with the idea of having a subscription-based service to Waves. It feels like they're trying to put you in a little bit of a box that I'm less happy about. But the notion of, for example, I went to see Henge the other week. A great little weird-ass progressive rock band who are all claiming to be aliens, and they use a lot of effects. Like, you know, everything is synthesized, everything is sound design, even the vocals to a degree. They all have either auto tune or they have some sort of doubler or some sort of anything, right? Instead of having necessarily to do that on stage, if you could do that all behind you so they could just focus on being the entertainment, that's an interesting idea to me. For that reason, that's kind of why I brought it to the table, because I think it's a bit unique, it's a bit different in that regard, and I suppose it's less of a producer's tool than it is an engineer's tool. But I don't know, I like the idea of, say we were to do like an Audionautic live event, for example, you know, and you know, we have
wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Is that
wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And if we were to do something like that, and then we were to have kind of like sound checks and stuff like that, things where everyone's got something like, we always talk about, like, for example, how Survey Channel has a sound, and like, you know, you hear something and that is Survey Channel and it's wonderful for what it is, you know, and then to be able to recreate that as an engineer for Survey Channel in relation to everything else, so everyone has a good time. I don't see that as necessarily as a bad thing. I see that as a great thing.
Yeah.
So, I'm quite happy.
I mean, it's a very cool concept. I guess it's the application here that we are there with. Real quick, so J Bell says what he meant about the how would you play the music. He says, say I plug in my Waves VST to a mixer, how do I perform? I need a controller. So this, correct me if I'm wrong, Curtis, but this is kind of different to what you're thinking about, J Bell, correct? Like, this is creating an environment of plugins that you would use to recreate your sounds live, correct, Curtis? Like, if you use distortion and things like that, you have all of these there, so you can create this environment that would mimic how you do it in the studio. Curtis, you can elaborate, because
presumably just copy it over, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I mean. Just like you'd have the exact same environment, like your studio plugin environment that you recorded all these songs with would all be right there with you. So I guess it's just if you're like trying to do live things, or like you said, Curtis, if you're engineering. Yeah, like, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just thinking, if your sound is quite processed and the tools that you've used to create that sound are Waves plugins, then you could presumably take that with you. I suppose it's the issue of like another laptop, you know, sat there doing that while presumably you're doing something else. Maybe you don't need a laptop to play live.
Yeah, and then
or anything, but yeah.
Survey Channel says Analog Lab is by Arturia. Oh, nice. Lets you control all the synth collection soft synths with parameters, groups, all the patches, etc. He said, I'm starting to feel overburdened and overwhelmed by hardware. Yeah, I mean, I get like that with plugins, just like trying to download all of these things, and it's I can see it either way for sure. And David says he's feeling the same. And yeah, he says he was looking. David also says, I was looking at Blue Cat Audio Patchwork, basically a host for VST and FX plugins, save settings, but you need a computer. Yeah.
Well, I like it again. So who's the dude for? I know everyone. I'm going to get a ton of hate for this question, but who's Kirk Hammett? No, not Kirk Hammett. Who's the lead guitarist for Metallica? I can't remember his name.
Kirk Hammett.
Yeah.
Oh, he's
right the first time.
Oh, it's James Hetfield. Yeah, okay, all right.
That's
cool.
the rhythm, yeah, and singer.
Yeah, that's the guy. So Kirk Hammett, he doesn't have his pedals on stage. His techie does his pedals.
A lot of people don't.
Yeah, and I suppose this is just the electronica version of that. In that regard, instead of someone manipulating vocals on stage with a Roland, whatever it is, a VER4 or whatever they call it, you know, you've got someone at the back who's kind of doing that for you. And I suppose it's that kind of thing, which you can then change in and out. That's the way
I mean, it seems pretty cool, especially for the price. But yeah, I guess if it's only for Waves plugins, it's a bit limiting. But yeah,
hopefully there might be a little bit of a pushback, and maybe they'll open it up a little bit. You never know. We'll see. Yeah. I like the also. Svrjcek said Engelbert Humperdinck. That would
for the
be
Metallica guitarist.
Yeah. I like that. Nobody will ask us to change his name legally by default. Yeah. Let us know what you think of that. Maybe I'm the only one that's excited by that. I don't know. I think that's quite cool. But we can see. Yeah, that's what we can see. So very much so. So we have a lot of our patrons in the chat, which is lovely to see. So thank you ever so much. It's lovely that you're here. Our patrons are lovely to give them the support that they give us, and we really appreciate the time. If you guys who are not patrons like what we do, we'd really consider becoming a patron. because it starts at $2. As you can see, we are using this StreamYard application, which has been very, very well found by some Warper, and he's doing all these flickety dickety things when we're just
the flickety dickety. Yeah, that's that's in the credits in the description. Yeah,
he's doing all that stuff, right? And we know that you guys love it. We know that it allows us to do a lot more with what we're doing, and we are currently doing a bit of a unofficial pledge or drive, I suppose is a better word, where we're trying to get to
pledge drive. Why not combine them?
Pledge drive, yeah, why not fuse these things together?
Synthesis, man.
Yeah, but yeah, basically we're trying to get the pro version, which is something that we're trying to do at the moment. You can stream in HD, 1080p. Sorry. Also, it gives us the ability to have second cameras. Now, you guys in our Patreon chats and on our Discord would like to see more content of us doing things in the DAW and like say, this is how I do this and this is how I do that. We can do that if we do StreamYard Pro. So if you like what we do and you aren't pledging at all, you can in the description if you want to. We love your support. We love you just tuning in. No doubt about that. But we would greatly appreciate your support.
Yeah, definitely. The links are in the description, patreon.com/audionautic. You also get additional meetups. We have these Starstream patron hangouts where we hang out with the patrons over on our Discord in a video chat and talk about all kinds of things. Kind of if somebody needs help with certain things, DAWs, just talk about gear, whatever. Last time we did a little bit of a talked about what was coming on the next ADSN. We had NAMM 2023, so we were going over all that stuff, and we had a lot of fun with that. You also get exclusive Discord channel, exclusive Twitter chat, and a bunch of other stuff. You can check out all the perks in the description or patreon.com/audionautic. And there's also a PayPal if you just want to help us get that StreamYard, but don't want to be in a monthly subscription or anything like that.
Very much so. Yeah. What's next? What is Aida Samwarper?
This is cool. Yeah. So I saw this right before we went live today, but it was way too cool to not mention. So it's Aida DSP AI Amp Simulation. So it's kind of trippy. It's free, but there's a little bit of a catch to that. So it's let me go to the stream so we can check it out. So yeah, this is on a piece of hardware that they teamed up with Mod to create this. So it's a part of this. It's amp simulation, but you can also get the actual plugin for free. But with the free plugin, you either have to model your own sounds or download some from the community. But what's cool is, they will be adding paid amp sims. It appears later. They've got it somewhere on the website. So in their words, they said, neural modeling is a breakthrough technology that utilizes machine learning algorithms to analyze and emulate the complex behaviors of real-world audio equipment. By training neural networks, we can create accurate and dynamic models of guitar amps, cabinets, pedals, and more. The result is a level of realism and detail that was previously impossible to achieve with traditional modeling methods. Aida X is a neural model player, allowing it to load neural models of music gear, which you can then play through. Its main intended use is to provide high-fidelity simulations of amplifiers, but here's what I wanted to bring to the table. However, it is possible to run entire signal chains consisting of any combination of amplifier, cabinet, distortion, drive, fuzz, boost, EQ. So, you guys, a lot of the patrons and people on the show know that Curtis and I are both guitarists, and Eon plays a lot of synths, and we love amp modeling and things like that. And I thought this was really cool, first of all, for guitar, because Curtis uses a Strymon Iridium, right, which is an amp cabinet modeler, and then I use Guitar Rig, but there's always something kind of missing. And so this is a cool way that with the AI, it's kind of, as it's being played and stuff, working on creating these more accurate, realistic portrayals of an amp and the responses of things and stuff like that. And it just got me thinking, and why I wanted to bring this to the table. Is this where we might see synth modeling go, or impulse responses with emulating rooms and reverbs and things like that? Or we all love analog gear, right? But what if an AI, while a soft synth is being used, can emulate some of these randomizations and things like that we get in these? So it's is this something we could see more of in the electronic world? So Eon, what do you think?
I think yes.
Okay. Elaborate.
Good night, everyone.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
No, I mean, It's inevitable. If it's a more, if you can come up with more ways of accurately modeling things, or even if you can just say that on paper, I think it's the nature of business that you end up. I think mobile phones are a good example. It just turns into some silly stat war in the end, where it's like, well, our camera's got this and your camera's got that, and nobody really cares. Everyone takes amazing pictures, but these things go on. And I think if you think of the companies that are out there that are already trying to do, really, really clever sample modeling and so on, where they've got multiple hits, multiple samples for each note and so on, and creating some very realistic instruments as a result. And then if you think also of MPE control and the number of different articulations you want to have on that sound and so on, there's got to be a large case for using AI and making things sound more real, or be able to do more complex things, more complex calculations, being able to handle more source sounds and blend them in ways that we're not able to do. I think it's just kind of inevitable, really. This has got to be the thin end of the wedge, I think. And it'll help with things like convolution, like you say. I mean, you should get some very realistic sounding environments. It's going to be really fun to abuse them and get lo-fi stuff out of it.
But just imagine like piano emulations, right? Like having all of these different dynamics in there that you can control, or that the AI can kind of go through, and all the choice that can happen with it. I mean, it sounds like it's early days and things like that, as all of this is, but I mean, this is kind of a cool application of it, I think.
It's good if you get stuff like a 4x10 cabinet with one slightly knackered speaker in it. It's emulations like that. I mean, real world where you don't necessarily too clean and so on,
Definitely. Curtis, we'll get your take in a second. I just want to say hello to our label mate, FCC. He says, hey guys, what's going on, FCC? How you doing? Curtis, you're a guitarist. You use some emulation plugins. What do you think about the plugin itself?
I think I like the way it's open source, and I like the way that it's completely free. That I always like free, and I always like open source. Information should be free. I think it's awesome. I think there's no pushbacks. Again, I echo what you're saying, Ian. Like, you can really personalize it in the sense that I'm thinking about my JCM 2000 that's in my mum's garage back home in England. There's no way I'm bringing it over.
That's what I have. You got a JCM 2000?
I do, yeah. I do.
The 3 or the 2? The 3 channel or the 2 channel?
2 channel, I think.
Okay, mine's the 3. I was like, man, we're almost exact. Well, we are almost exact. That's cool. But I think it's the same. I think it's the same. The same 2, like the same 2 channels are in that.
Yeah,
that's cool. Yeah.
Well, that's it. Having that, I could emulate. There's no way that I'm bringing that over from Prague, for example. Sorry, from the UK to Prague. I'm just not doing it, but I love that tone, and it was the last time I was truly happy with my guitar tone. So imagine being able to take that specifically and emulate that and to near perfection. I would love to be able to do that. I've seen a few others coming across. I'm not quite sure the extent to which they're doing AI, but I have seen Spectre Studios did a thing about it a couple of weeks ago. But I mean, I'm all for the inclusion of AI in music and kind of where that's going and where that could possibly take us. So like you say, it's early days, but it's exciting, really exciting.
It could be really cool.
We need to hear it though, don't we?
Yeah. There is some examples on YouTube. There's one guy that's playing through it. It sounds pretty cool. I mean, I use amp simulation, but I always feel like it's just kind of missing something, especially when you get in the more distorted realms. This one, I mean, I was listening on the new MacBook speakers, so it wasn't headphones, wasn't my monitors, but it sounded pretty good. We can put a link in the comments after this showing one of the demos that they put up. Yeah, I mean, it's free to download, so we can get it ourselves and check it out. But even cooler, like with the cabinet simulation and room simulation or potential that you could get with it. Imagine, like, I like to put convolution reverbs on my synths, right? Or if I bus all my synths into a room, or the drums, just imagine if you could have this AI nuanced, controlled impulse response that could, just be more nuanced into it. It could be really cool. David in the chat says, I think we will drive ourselves crazy with choices, but it's probably coming. I think it's one of those things where you kind of have to just choose a couple things and like
Yeah.
focus on it, right?
So
Like
it's
that's
Yeah.
that's
like your
kind of what
tone,
I've
isn't it?
done. Like I know
Yeah.
we talk about all kinds of gear and a lot of gear, but like other than Eon, like Curtis and I don't typically change our gear all that much. Like we focus in on a specific thing, and even Eon, like who likes to get different kinds of gear, he focuses in on things. And look at his live set; he kind of narrowed it down and got there. Bendu is in the chat. What's going on, Bendu? How are you?
Hey, man.
Hi. I think it's one of those, isn't it? You find your tone, you pick your tone, you keep the tone. Like I've got the setting on my Iridium, which is the emulating the Marshall stack. Because I mean, if you're going to choose between a Vox, a Fender, and a Marshall, you're going to choose Marshall.
I don't know, man.
Well, there you go. We'll have that. Maybe that's another debate for another day.
I'd probably go Fender, but I don't know.
Well, that's fair. That's fair. That's
and I say that with no Fender behind me.
Yeah. I've always liked my Marshall. I've always liked my Marshall tone and my Marshall stack. Metalhead through and through.
What's the Marshall in there? Is it an 800?
I believe so. I believe it's an 800. I believe.
Yeah.
Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the beefiest sound I've got on that, and it's nice. And I really,
Thomas is with me.
I'm a Fender guy.
guy.
Fair enough. I think if I'm
Guy.
You're a what?
You're a Bose guy.
Both. Yeah. Having one on each side of the stage, right? Running stereo.
Yeah, orange in there.
Oh, oranges are nice, man. No, Mess is pretty good too.
I do find,
yeah.
I do find the Fender works for when I plug the bass in. But it's a bit too muddy otherwise. But that's another thing for another day. But yes, I echo what Thomas is saying. Orange is also nice, and what you guys.
Yeah, and David says Fender for my guitarists.
Yeah, I get that.
Orange is nice. Yeah, orange is nice.
Box then? Are they going to sell a physical box?
Well, it's part of this mod. That did let me go back, Curtis. Go. Oh, I hit remove. Hold on. Let me go here, Curtis.
There's
go
the
up.
open source plugin that's free, but
yeah, scroll up. There's I think it's up, Curtis, on this thing you're sharing. There's that's it. That's the actual physical. It's from mod.
Yeah.
And by physical, I mean it looks like a digital thing, but it's a physical piece of gear. So yeah, so mod teamed up with them and made it, but then the actual plugin version is open source.
Well, there we go. So that's that. Wouldn't mind a bit of that. I wouldn't mind a bit of that. I mean, I love that design of the box itself, and I love.
Let me go back to it. Hold on.
Color scheme.
Yeah, it's cool.
Well, let's face it, you can put anything through it.
Oh yeah.
That's what I was saying. Is imagine putting synths through it.
Vocals.
A bus of vocals or something. Yeah. J-Bell, it's an AI pedal, but it's also a plugin. So. Yeah. And by pedal, I mean they added this to this mod dwarf.
So
I'm not familiar with the mod dwarf. Again, I just saw this before the episode and wanted to bring it up more for the conceptual discussion of this AI in effects and stuff. But yeah, so the mod dwarf is the physical part. It's a pedal. It looks like it's some sort of like amp simulation, like a Kemper or what's that other one? There's another one that I'm blanking on. And then there's the free plugin version that you can download that's open source. So yeah.
I get it. It looks lush, it looks awesome, it looks great. It does as
Thomas says that looks cool. I'm assuming the plugin is stereo. I'm not sure. And it looks like there may be stereo out on the pedal. So yeah.
Oh, look at that visualizer coming through.
It's loading. Hold
on. I don't know if it's. There you go. So
yeah, there we go. So yeah, that's in and then there's out. Yeah. It looks like there's USB and all that stuff. So yeah, MIDI.
MIDI. Yeah, MIDI. You've got control chain, 12 volt, and you've got USB as well, and headphones as well. So you can literally have that as a box, have it as a little jam box.
Does it show price? J-Bell's asking price. I'm not sure.
In the region of £400, just
maybe
over.
Yeah.
415-ish in some places.
It doesn't say. I can't see it here. If we move on to the next segment, I'll have a little.
Here, I'll Google it. Go ahead and start the next.
If I move.
Yeah, no CV out. True, Thomas. It's free. It looks like it's $529 USD.
That's not. It's one of those
for
boxes
the mod dwarf. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like you buy it and then you'd never need another one, that kind of thing. Which is, again, if you look at a Kemper, which I believe is what, about $1,500, $2,000 USD?
Oh yeah, if not more, yeah.
Yeah. that completely undercuts any of that. And it's
but I don't know what its limitations are or anything like that. This is all just speculation here beyond the price. The price, according to this Google search, was $529 USD. But yeah, I mean, it looks like it can do quite a bit, and yeah, it's pretty cool.
I'm down.
And then having this AI bit in there, pretty interesting.
In the name of Edge, look, it spins. So that's awesome. So yeah.
Frequency Control Center has a good point about Vox. You can't beat the smell of a very hot AC30 though. AI can't do that yet. Maybe it'll add smell simulation as well.
Yeah,
like a 4DX experience kind of thing.
It just comes up with like a warning, you know, tubes are overheating. Fake tubes are overheating.
I like that. Well, like we say, after the show, we'll put the sound demos that we have here in there in the chat so you can see. But yeah, that's the Mod Dwarf. If anyone ends up buying it, please let us know.
Yeah, or if you download the Aida plugin,
yeah.
let us know. I might grab it, but I don't know if I need another plugin to deal with trying to get incorporate it between two computers at the moment. So I'm gonna throw that to Curtis while he does that.
I'll have a look. Yeah, and J-Bell is basically it's a guitar pedal. Yeah, in physical form.
But that doesn't mean it's just for guitar. It's just a pedal. You could throw anything through it. So
yeah. So as long as it takes a big jack, or
big
even
jack,
MIDI.
Yeah.
MIDI, USB, does it all.
I don't know if it has USB audio though. I'm not sure.
It's got
Does
USB.
it say it?
Got USB 2.0 and it's got USB. So I take that as it does. It does give you that ability too. So
Survey Channel says Sunwarper should buy this. I think I will happily take donations. If anybody wants to send it my way, I'll give it a demo.
That's again, if we keep growing, then people can send us this stuff. We can demo it, let you know.
And Thomas says, does it have AI? Yeah, the pedal is using this Aida. That mod teamed up with Aida, so it's in that pedal.
Yeah.
So it's the modeling, isn't it, that uses the
So we'll if you guys are interested in this pedal, because this is not what we're covering today. It was the Aida plugin and kind of the concept of AI. If you guys are interested in this pedal, let us know. We'll do an actual look into the pedal and talk about it next week. I don't want to give any sort of false information or anything like that. So we're just more covering the conceptual idea of this adding AI to emulations and what kind of future that presents for sound design. Yeah,
very much so. There's one more comment from but it's not sentient. I like that. Thomas, yeah. I like that.
I hope it's not. At some point it could become sentient and change it'll change which amp you have on the fly and you'll be like, wait, this is clean. I need it distorted.
You're playing a chord progression, you play a bum note, and what it does is go, oh, I heard that. I'm gonna just delay for days.
It's changing your sound. Your guitar sound is so last year. I've changed it for you.
I heard you like guitar cab, so I gave you another guitar cab on top of your guitar cab. But I'm not sure. J-Bell has one more comment. I wonder if I plug in MIDI controller and plug my headphones in, would it be like a synth? I don't think so.
No, I believe it's just an amp emulation, so it's not a synth plugin. It seems like there's no plugins. You would still need to send the audio from a plugin, it sounds like, into it or something, like get it out from your computer into that. So yeah, that's where we're going with that one. But yeah, so that is the Aida. It's really nice. Our final piece of news for the day. It's another quite futuristic one, I suppose. This is the news coming out of what are they called? This is the new Stardust 3D by Sound Particles. Skydust, right?
Skydust. What did I say?
Stardust, I think.
I'm not even paying attention to what I'm coming.
Rogue One, man. It's Rogue One.
Why pay attention to what I'm saying on my show? But yeah, this is that. So basically, Sound Particles have introduced the first VST plugin, which you can sound design in 3D. So previously, we have new things coming out like Dolby Atmos, which allows you to have like binaural beats and sounds and cinematic going all over the cranium and stuff like that. This is taking it one step further and allowing us to do that in the VST itself, which is a really cool concept. Like being able to have an arpeggiator, because it has arpeggiators and sequences built in, for example. imagine having that and panning that,
Yeah,
not just
bouncing
left and
around.
right, but bouncing around everywhere, you know, and we can do that all within the VST itself. I haven't done any actual mixing through anything that gives you Dolby Atmos or anything, but this is something that I'd be really interested in. It's kind of taking it one step back and allowing you to create a 3D effect. Now, whether you're doing commissioned work for cinema or whether you're just having a nice Saturday evening with your gear at home, this seems like a lot of fun. It seems like a lot of fun. It's got eight oscillators, each with 3D position per note. I know, right?
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna start layering drones already.
Yeah.
Man, yeah. You've got a matrix for maximum flexibility with ultimate power. You've got effects, pitch, filter, frequency modulation, arpeggiators, and presets. But also, they have a randomizer to create the Bob Ross effect, happy accidents. This comes in two forms. You can get it for $300 for the spatial audio, and which is this kind of matrixy thing that we're seeing here. But also, if you want just the stereo version, it's $149. So see how you get on, do what you want. But for $300, 3D audio, go Subwoofer.
That's pretty cool. I mean, it's like this whole episode is all the concepts are so interesting, right? Like even if it's not the specific piece of gear or software, it's like the idea of these things coming out. And there may have been these things like this before, like 3D synths and things like that. But I'm just loving where all of this stuff is going, you know, right? Like just I'm on the ride, right? I'm here for the ride just to see where all of this stuff expands and evolves and changes. It just seems like an interesting time. Like David says, very interesting. I can just imagine, like Eon Lake was saying, putting multiple drones or like binaural type things with slightly off pitch and things like that, or just like trancing out with different, like make an arpeggio, right? But each note is moving around the stereo field or the spectrum or the 3D field. It's pretty crazy. Yeah. Eon Lake, what's your take?
Similar to yours, I think. I find myself wondering what you need as well as that to experience it at its best, because it's 8 different positions you can have. I'm just thinking, what does it mix down to? How do you listen to it? You know?
Yeah, that's a good question. If anybody in the chat knows, let us know. I'm not super familiar with Dolby and like surround stuff and things.
But I
like
love
that.
the idea of incorporating spatial audio into the actual sound creation itself and giving it a load of position movement, you know, so when your tonal changes can move in different 3D zones. It's very interesting. Yeah, I wonder what else you'd need to fully appreciate it, but
probably a good surround speaker setup or headphones that do 3D audio, right?
Yeah, you need to have the hardware on the back end to be able to process it and listen to it effectively. But if that's the way you're going, and if you are an artist and you're trying to get into commission work, or you do commission work, this kind of thing is becoming more and more popular and more useful. So, I mean, that's just fun on the back end of it, really. If you've got the ability to do that, I'd like to see it come through. I mean, for $300, I think I'd rather save up to get like the Expressive E, which I know is a lot more, but that's kind of where my goal would be from last week. But
J-Bell says there's a bunch of free VSTs that let you push music to 3D. J-Bell, is that for mixing, or is that actually like a synth that you could do 3D? Because that's kind of that's what this thing is doing. It's one dedicated synth that can do the 3D rather than you make it all in stereo and put it through this. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm just curious whether it's like the after or the actual application can do it. And then he also says he thinks one of them is called Ambio.
I've got it here. Yeah, I've just brought it up. So it is a thing again. So yeah, we do have these like 3D emulator kind of things. I think the notion of this matrix that we brought up before again was that idea that you can place it and put it in. I don't know how much this Ambio does a thing. J-Bell did a lot of stuff in university, so he knows a lot more than me. But I think I like the idea of being able to do it instead of taking something and then just, it's like, I suppose stereo width, isn't it? Like taking something mono and then widening it with stereo width. This is like getting in something and making it in stereo in the first place. I think for me, at least, there's always that difference between taking a mono and turning it stereo and then actually recording in stereo.
Or taking a load of point sources or even stereo sources and putting them in different fields with a multi-speaker setup. But this is a way of generating a sound that occupies all of those spaces and can move between them as well. So you're doing it right from the word go rather than making a load of sounds and panning them from.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like doing it for one dedicated, like, oh, I have an arpeggio, and you can just do it like this note goes on the left, this note goes in the center, this goes up, this goes down, rather than you'd have to have multiple tracks, right? That's doing one note each of those. So yeah.
Or softer in front, louder behind, and stuff like that. Aftertouch, all of these things.
Yeah.
Certainly got me thinking anyway.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for. If we're thinking, we're learning. That's the main way forward.
Together we grow, right?
Yeah, totally. So that is our news for this week. If there's anything we've missed, we'd love for you to let us know. We are just a couple of dudes who like to surf Synthopia frantically every morning when we wake up. I can't speak for Sunwarper, but that's basically
you. You just said a couple of dudes, but that's you. I like to branch out. Scroll YouTube
every so often, yeah. So So if there's anything we missed, is there anything that is happening? We are in NAMM season, so we're well aware of the fact that there's lots of stuff coming out right now. Let us know. It's on our Discord, which is also a lovely burgeoning community as well. While we're on the topic of it, so yeah, let us know. Because
real quick, Jason, we're talking about Submithub right now. Actually, that's the next thing on the topic. Yeah, he said, thought you were talking about Submithub. That's why we tagged. Yeah, Jason, that's you on Submithub then, right? Yeah.
Hello.
Very cool. Welcome. Yeah, we're just talking about the similar artist feature you just added. I had noticed when I was submitting my most recent track that you were able to choose the artists. And then when you were looking at the curators, it would tell you like they've used this artist before and things like that. And I saw the email, so we wanted to cover that. So that's what we're talking about. But you can give us some great insight if you want about that in the chat. But yeah, it just looks like a nice way to kind of include songs that are a little more out of a specific genre. Like you can say, oh yeah, it sounds like Comtrues and Boards of Canada, and then you can see if that fits in a playlist. And when you're showing a curator, they can kind of see that it's more in this sort of overarching similar style to artists.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, it's a really cool idea. So I wanted to talk about it. Ian, like, what do you think about it? And Jason, feel free to elaborate on it if you.
I think it's good. There's a lot of people necessarily aren't great at describing their music, especially the people that create it. And I think, people like to compare something that they don't know to something that they do know. This is an easier way of getting an idea of where to filter it. And let's face it, if you're going to submit and you don't submit to the right person, you're just playing them a track they're never going to like in the first place. If you can do anything to make that process, works more smoothly, then, it's going to benefit everyone. You wouldn't want to be one of these people, saying you're a lo-fi guy doing, looking at playlists like that, and you keep getting, speedcore tracks sent to you. It's just going to annoy the hell out of you, isn't it? So I suppose the better we can filter these things, the more likely it is that it's going to work better for everyone.
Yeah, and Jason's adding some context I just want to add. He says it's a work in progress, but the idea is to try to balance out possible wrong genre options. Today, I actually added a waiting for approvals in the background. And he said the similar stuff is analyzing two sources. One, the content of their playlists, if they have any, and two, the historical approvals on Submithub.
That's
and
cool.
He said part 2 actually rolled out this afternoon on the back end. Oh, very cool. Yeah, Jason, this was a really cool ad. When I saw, I think the first part of it, I was submitting, I think yesterday or 2 days ago, and it definitely let me choose similar artists and like had their pictures, like the UI that it's showing in this link we're sharing. And then I was seeing like, oh, this playlist has added this artist before or something to that effect. Yeah, and he says this is really cool. 2.6 million data points for the historical approvals.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a really cool addition. So I wanted to highlight it. It seems like it's kind of adding, like I was saying, just allowing for slightly different artists that just like finding the genres. Because like Curtis, when he released his album, was saying how he couldn't really find a playlist that fit exactly what he thought his music was like. But I'm kind of thinking like if he can choose these artists that he feels he's similar to, that at least kind of gives him a better idea of seeing where he might fit in these playlists. He also says 5 million data points from the playlist. Yeah, lots of data.
Love big data.
Open the floodgates on that one.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, Curtis, what do you think?
It's cool. Again, when I saw it in the docket, I was like, "Oh, yeah, that's awesome." Again, I spoke about it when I released Marooned back in March, was it? I can't remember. I had a real struggle trying to kind of define what my work is. It's not psychedelic, it's not blues, it's not trip hop, it's not electronica, it's not down tempo. It's a bit of a mash of them all. So like, where am I going to go? And I've been doing this for a while, and I have a steady job, and I have income, and I'm willing to make investments in my music in that regard, in terms of like putting down for credits and stuff like that, which are very reasonably priced. I also work with people who are just starting out. They might still be working or living at home with their parents, might be teenagers, and they don't have the funds to do this. So every credit counts. So to have a tool that allows you to better spend those credits, especially in the early days, because I started out with Submithub, got disenchanted by it, and I've recently come back to it. I think it allows that better integration, so to speak. And so I applaud it. I welcome it. I think it's awesome, in short.
Oh, Jason also says they can also earn free premium credits on Hot or Not. Yeah, that's, I think, a newer-ish feature, correct, Jason?
The Tinder of the music world, yeah.
Another question, though. I wonder if, does this come from a feature requests from people who use it? Or is it, it's because it's some good common sense thinking. Did it come from internally, or were these changes requested? I'd be interested to know.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. And Survey Channel had said that he had the same issues Curtis was talking about, gave up on Submithub, but this is an interesting step. And then Jason adds that it's not going to solve all the problems. It still comes down to subjective taste in music and targeting. And yeah, that's nothing that Submithub can change, because every curator has their own ideas of music and stuff like that. But I just think this is a really cool addition to the process. And Jason says that it's a bit of both, Eon Lake, to your question.
Thank you.
There we go.
Yeah. Yeah, Jason, we really appreciate you coming and staying through. Sorry, at the intro, I'd mentioned the Submithub being near the end, but maybe you may have come on after or something. I know since we're live, it happens, but we appreciate you hanging out and staying on to answer some questions and talk about this. It's a really cool feature, and I'm looking forward to seeing what else you roll out.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. It's nice to see. It's very much welcomed. I'm very much in the same boat as Survey Channel. It's a wonderful kind of way to go and stop wandering from room to room. Find your niche, find your corner. We still live in a very anarchic form of the music industry where everything is so specific and playlists can't deviate, and that's always going to be the way. So it's nice that these tools have come in to kind of help us navigate that a bit easier. I think that's lovely.
Yeah, and Jason asked if he could clip some from this. Of course you can. We can send you once it's rendered on YouTube, we can send you the video as well if you'd like. As long as you can, if you can tag us, we're at Audionautic, correct, Curtis, on Twitter and Instagram?
At Audionautic on Twitter and on Instagram.
Yeah, the links are in the description, Jason, if you want to check it out. But yeah, thanks so much for hanging out and talking. It's really cool. And Thomas says, I think it's a great new feature. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so yes, that's our marketing minute, which was a bit longer than a minute this week, but that was absolutely fine. No worries at all.
It always is.
It always is. Yeah, it's fine. It's just the alliteration. It's all about that alliteration. Who needs advertising standards when you have alliteration?
Alliteration's all you need.
Exactly. We come to our final piece for today, which is the round robin. This is the part of the show for anyone tuning in for the first time, where we take a concept, take an idea, and we just kind of chew it over, hash it out. It can be something to do with the production process. It can be to do something with, say, the mental health of the music producer in this modern day and age. It can be about gear. It can be about strategies and whatnot. And this week, owing to the fact that I planned this ahead because I knew that he was buying a new computer.
That's good. That's good. Having order in a chaotic world, right?
Yeah. It's almost like we speak every day and have a bit of a personal relationship, isn't it? Really.
Just maybe.
Yeah, exactly. So very simple. Laptop production versus computer production, in the sense of a tower, a fixed designated computer versus a laptop producer. I have always been a laptop producer. I think I've done it since I don't think I've ever produced on an actual computer, maybe for like 6 months back in the day, but I've always used laptops. I know, Eon Lake, you have a fully fledged computer which stands there in your studio and you're on it now. In a way, I know you also like to go out in the world and do things.
I have a laptop too.
Oh, there we go. Why not both? Maybe the answer is C. Yes. So
it always is, I think.
It's never A or B.
But it is C. So yeah, I wanted to talk about the pros and cons of each. Maybe for someone kind of, again, a lot of people in my world right now are making those choices. You know, if they're upgrading, what are they going to upgrade to? So maybe, you know, hashing out some of the pros and cons might be useful to someone at home. So, who would like to kickstart for today?
I'll go.
Go.
I would say do your research. I'm under the impression, and you should probably do your research into this, that you can get more grunt for your money in the larger form factors. So in a laptop notebook type sort of form factor, you're going to be paying a little bit for miniaturization and, you know, the engineering going in to make something as small as it can be, as thin as it can be, and so on. And, you know, historically, that's meant that if you buy something more desktop based, you tend to get something that has more power or, you know, memory or whatever for the same amount of money. Now, that's not necessarily the case. You know, this is driven by business and by consumerism, and there's certainly a lot more demand, I think, for laptops and so on. So I guess it depends what you want out of it. It's easier to get a nice big screen out of a desktop thing. I use an iMac in the studio, but I have I've got a notebook as well that I'm going to be using for live, and it's I'm not really swayed by the screen thing. It is useful if you're editing, but I don't want to make music in a way that involves the screen heavily. I want to have controls and, you know, use the screen as little as possible. I like the idea of having a laptop that you could sort of put away to the side and forget about until you need it. Maybe have one to connect to a big screen if you do need to do some editing. But I'd rather find fun ways of editing. I don't want to be cutting up waveforms on a screen. I'd rather be doing it on a piece of kit, on a sampler or something. You know, something where there's immediate turn something, hear a difference sort of control. But yeah, numbers of ins and outs and so on as well. I don't know. I kind of like the idea of being able to do your stuff in the studio and then pick the laptop up and go and play. But at the same time, I would still have to do a load of changes anyway. It's not going to be. I run a lot of synths live sometimes when I'm mixing tracks down. You know, I'd have to record everything or take half of them with me. In a way, it's simpler to have two separate setups. You know, the studio is fixed, everything else moves, you know. So I think it's pros and cons, really. It depends what you're after and what you need it for. And portability has got to be the big question. Yeah, do you need to be able to move it? Does it work better then? It is good to be able to have it wherever you go and be able to make music on the move. You know, we all like to do that. Best of both worlds, I suppose, to have, you know, a bit of both. But I suppose, you know, a notebook, you know, a laptop can do both to a certain extent, whereas you're not going to be carting around a tower system with you anywhere, are you?
I know a couple of people who have, and I've never heard any good experiences from doing it. So yeah, I had a friend who moved. Well, I had a friend who moved from Vietnam to Mexico, and he carted that across the world. Because he's not a musician; he's an editor, and he does a lot of like Photoshop and stuff like that, and Premiere Pro and edits and stuff like that. And you know, he made the investment, and he said it was the worst thing he'd ever done. And and like so. I mean, I love him to pieces. It's great, but I mean, you know, these days you can do those kind of things on a laptop. But I'm going to shut up and not talk about my view of things until we've heard all about Submithub's new setup and this wonderful idea that he's got.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it'll work perfectly, but it's kind of out of necessity that I have to create some sort of hybridity between having.
Ooh, nice.
Oh, thank you. English, that you, right? Yeah, the English teacher. Thank you for the praise. That means a lot. I need to have like this setup for when I really need to get in the monitors, the gear, all that stuff. But I'm going to need to be in the house more and things like that. So I was like, I need something that kind of be hopefully the best of both worlds, or at least do what I need it for portably and do what I need it for in here. So the laptop, I got the M2 MacBook Pro, has 3 USB-C inputs. So not the greatest amount of inputs, right? But my plan is to get a dock that's through USB-C. That's like the highest speed I can get, and connect, basically have everything that's connected to this desktop at the moment connect to that dock. And then just with one USB-C cable plug into the laptop. So when I need to be desktop mode, I'm here and I've got a screen. The dock would have HDMI that goes to a screen, right? So everything is just in this dock that's basically the tower of the laptop. And then all I have to do when I need to go back in the house or go travel, do something like that, unplug, and I've got the laptop. Now I won't have the gear, but like you were saying, Ian, like when you need the gear, well, I just come in here and do it. But when I don't, I still have all the soft synths, all the plugins and things like that. And so I'm basically going to create a Logic template that has all the MIDI connects to the gear. And then that'll just be when I open Logic to make a song or anything, it's all set up if I'm in here to just be connected to this. Now, latency is going to be the question. I'm not sure where that's going to happen. If I need to, I still have 3 inputs and a charger. Luckily, this new Mac has the charger separate, like a separate charger that's not a USB-C. So I'll still have 3. So if there's something like, let's say the SP needs to be more direct, I can plug that in on its own. But I'm hoping that with the faster speed dock that's USB-C and 3.0 and stuff, it'll work. And Thomas gives some encouragement. He says the M2 is going to kill it. Yeah, I want to know that diva test. That's what I really want to know. That's the true mark of whether it's going to work or not. And I'm totally joking, but that's going to be fun. But yeah, so it's kind of like trying to find a way to bridge this gap. Like I have this DAW-less setup that's connected all through MIDI to the computer. So it's DAW-less and can be on its own. But then I can also just send a ton of MIDI to everything and have it as separate channels into the. So that's what got me thinking about this hybrid laptop setup, was this hybrid DAW-less setup. So I'm hoping it'll work. You guys will know week in, week out, if you tune in every week, how it's progressing. I'll keep you posted. But the next step is, well, first getting the rest of my plugins plugged in or in the laptop. And then, yeah, it's going to start figuring out all of this stuff. A couple things before we go to Curtis. And Ian, like if you had a question or something, but Frequency Control Center said, I already had a huge beast of an iMac for design work in the studio, so it made sense to use that. 2 huge screens is a big plus, but thinking of migrating to laptop for live stuff. Yeah, I mean, the laptops, you can do at least 1 screen with the docks. You might be able to get 2. And this MacBook has an HDMI output. So because I think my old one might not have, but I know in between my 2015 and the 2023, they took out a lot of connectivity, and then it seems like they're kind of adding it back in. There's a headphone input in the new one, which
they did a wave, didn't they?
For a while, yeah. Yeah. And then Survey Channel says, feels like I have no time for either approach anymore. Hardware cluttering me and software out the wazoo. And he says, thought about building a rack mount desktop, but I don't play enough to justify it. Yeah, that's tough. I guess, I mean, in my opinion, it's kind of just like we were talking about with the gear when David mentioned there's too much gear. It's like finding those few pieces you really love and just making something work out of that. And then when you need the more expansive approach, you can have it. That's like my view. Ian, like, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm doing a little bit of that with the live setup. I've got things all connected into a dock that I just pull out of the thing when I need to take the laptop out of the rig. So, push and the SP404, and I've got an OP1 as well. They're all connected up, but I just have to pull the MacBook out and leave it there. I'm going to plug it in next time.
I did want to ask if anybody has dock recommendations. Like if you have one or anything. I'm looking into it. I'm doing some research.
Low latency audio one. No, my one's just it's more of like an interface expander than like a decent
I got you. Yeah. But yeah, if anybody has any recommendations, just post them in the chat, or if you're watching this after or on Apple or Spotify, just put it in either the comments on YouTube or on Spotify. There'll be the question. So I'll put that for the question, and then we'll have a poll for this as well, asking whether you like laptop, desktop, or both. Curtis, what about you? What's your take on all this?
Before you talk to me, Server Channel put something in the chat. Put that.
Oh well, let's see what he's got. I'm trying to slim down for the one live show I'm playing, but it entails getting any soft synth parts onto my DeepMind, which is time consuming. Yeah. Have you? So, are you trying to emulate them with the DeepMind? Like for me, when I did some live sets, I just kind of was like, okay, I'm going to use this patch that's similar to multiple tracks patches and just do it with that, because that was just a way to work around it. But yeah, let us know. Curtis, what about you?
I think in a similar vein, I think it comes down to what your needs are and kind of how your lifestyle, like it has to get in with your lifestyle. We all know it's not all about the music, and we know that it's, everything that you're doing. I think someone said it on Twitter the other day. Maybe it was Rick. I don't know, but he said, like, these things, taking a break from music and the things outside of the music studio, these are all things that feed back into your music, and therefore they're important. The device that you're using to make music must complement your existing existence. How's that for alliteration?
Oh man. See if you could say it again. That's the real test.
Existing existence.
Okay.
I'll try that. Existing existence. But yeah. So for example, I've always done a laptop because I've always been slightly nomadic, in the sense that I've never really, up until I moved to Hanoi. I mean, in Hanoi, I was moving a lot, but generally speaking, throughout my life, I've generally moved around quite a lot, and I don't want to be lugging stuff around. To this day, everything I have can be fit inside one suitcase. I have two suitcases, one for my stuff and then one for my gear, and then that's it, and that's all I have. So that's kind of the rule I live my life by, right? So it doesn't make sense that I'd have a tower. So I've just got a really powerful laptop, and that suits me, because then, I can do stuff here, and in a similar vein, I can go work in a cafe, I can go to work, and I can work in the booth, I can plug into a studio somewhere else, I can do it anywhere. I like that flexibility. That flexibility works for me. Does it mean that I sacrifice computer power? Yes. Does it mean that I have to make sacrifices in terms of screen size? Yes. Am I okay with it? You bet you. No regrets there.
Yeah.
Even when I moved to Ableton and moved to this laptop, this I've got this big second screen here, which once upon a time was my main screen. But now, since I've been doing more live stuff, I do everything on this small screen, and it's actually teaching me to go more with like touch and with feel and kind of like glances, as opposed to squinting and everything like that, So, which plays into it. But at the same time, if you're someone like who is not a shaven chimp like me and likes to move around and likes to stay in a place, and then that investment in a decent computer or a Mac Mini or something like that, that is good, that kind of thing. That's what works, So for me, it's always about a lifestyle choice and how that works for you. Obviously, do your specs in terms of like RAM and things like that. But if you're making your first beats, you don't need. I've got a Nitro 5 with like 32 gig of RAM and SSD and all that stuff, and I made a huge investment. You don't need to do that. You can just have like a little, 8 gig, 16 gig HP that I had over there, for example. Like, do your research for your text, but also see how is it going to complement your existence, because you don't, if it's going to be a problem, then if it's causing, we always say when we want to come to this show, it's about entering that flow state. and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
if your software, or even if your hardware, if your brain, your computer is causing you issues, then that's kind of stopping you being creative. That's where you kind of, for me at least, that's kind of where the impetus is. That's the main thing.
Yeah, definitely. Just a couple other things in the chat. Survey Channel says, yeah, he's trying to emulate everything onto the DeepMind. He's yet to try the approach I was mentioning. Yeah, one thing you could do, like if you have a pad, but you also need more percussive chords, you could just use that same patch, but have the attack be different or something. And yeah, Thomas was saying, and I was going to mention that as well. He says, when I did live shows with a band years ago, I sampled every sound into Ableton Sampler and ran everything from the DAW. I was going to mention you could take those soft synths and sample multiple notes or a couple notes through each octave, or just C from each octave and put it in a sampler and transpose those notes to fit the full keyboard. And then you'd have that synth as a sample pack basically, but that you could run live with MIDI with just a couple samplers or something if you're using a DAW live. Yeah. Oh, but he says he's trying to cut out the DAW. So yeah. But the Survey Channel says that he uses Reaper. Does Reaper have a sampler? I would assume it might, but there's probably some free samplers that you can get. But Survey Channel, let us know. But yeah, Curtis, that's the best point. I mean, it's just, it really does depend on lifestyle and like what you need it for. Yeah, SP404 Survey Channel, you could do that. I know the OG 404 doesn't have that chromatic mode, but if it did, you could do that. But you could just put a couple of notes or even chords from each song on each pad, like one per pad, and just trigger those live, something like that. That's always a fun one to do. I did that for a live set recently.
Very much so. We'd like to know what you guys think. Obviously, the chat's been quite alive today, and it's been really nice. If you are happening to be, hang on, let me get my grammar correct here, Mr. English teacher. If you happen to be listening to this show on repeat on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, there's a lot more of you these days, which is lovely to see. So thank you very much. And if you are listening to this or watching on Spotify, in that case, let us know. There is a poll, which I assume someone will put up when he uploads it.
Unless I completely forget, but I intend to.
The intention is
should be there.
Should be there. Let us know, and let us know in the Discord. We'd love to see this. This is it. It is another classic. I know we had a classic one last week, and we got a bit of a classic one this week, but it is something that for a lot, we are getting a lot of like new producers coming through, and like it's interesting to have these discussions, even for revision's sake. Again, Mr. Teacher over here, it is good to revise and have a look at these thinkings. Like, where are you coming from? What do you need? Because we get so caught up in what we think is the advanced techniques of music and synthesis. These basic questions are really fundamental to go through. And so, yeah, we'd like to know what you think as well.
Yeah, and if you are watching on Apple or Spotify, consider leaving a rating if you enjoyed the video or the episode, and a review too is always helpful. It just helps get to new eyes and ears, and we really appreciate it. But of course, just hanging out is definitely more than enough. Yeah, like, what do you got going on this week? Anything?
What am I doing? I'm putting together a little ambient set for a friendly radio show.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Nice. That'll air sometime in June, I think. And other than that, yeah, fiddling around with VSTs and then going, sod it, and going with hardware instead because it's easier, which is not something I thought I would find. But yeah, I need one good synth voice for me to use, and I want to be able to control it and which sound it is. And if it means I have to take the Micro Freak or something like that, then I'll do that.
Yeah. And Curtis, what about you? What's going on this week?
It's a good question. I've been making a lot of live stuff recently. I've been getting into more consistent live streaming. I've been making little like live loops and bops and stuff like that. I think it's time to start going back to those projects with a fresh set of ears and start to produce them. And, I've got live versions off the bat, and I think I'm also going to do some produced ones and start creating some more content. Not content. That's a
content.
But you know what I mean. It's time to start kind of. I've got things to release, but I've got to keep creating and keep producing. And it's not all about the creation aspect. Sometimes got to go back. And I'm always a stickler for building loops and building a track, but then going, I'll just build another one, because that's where the dopamine is. And that's, my ADHD brain is like, give me that dopamine. So it's time to go back and do some production, do some sound design, and get into it, I think. So, yeah. What about you, Sam Walper?
My plugin existential crisis aside, I've got I had a lot of fun last week with that stem separation video. I separated the stems from a Curtis track and remixed it in Serato Studio, and then I was doing some stuff in Koala Sampler. I since it was my YouTube video, I didn't want to use like another song, but I took samples from I stem separated my song and took the drums and like chopped them up and reworked it to make like what was a synthwave track into a boom bap trap. And then tomorrow I've got my little pocket operator video coming out. It's the pocket operator. I sampled into it, chopped it up, threw it into the SP, and then added guitar on top. So just fun stuff. I'll be going live next week. So if you do subscribe to me on YouTube, you'll see some polls. So if you want to help decide what I'm making for the next live stream, just choosing that poll. I'm debating. If anybody has genres and gear suggestions, let me know either in the chat while we're still live. Do you guys, the two of you, have any gear? I'm thinking a sample flip on the SP or something with the circuit. Doom ambient.
Yeah, Doom ambient.
When you say Doom, do you mean like Doom metal?
Yeah, like Doom metal ambient. That's what I want.
That would be
with
fun.
aspects of dub.
I would. Okay, I will do that, but at a later date because I can't play guitar long enough to do that justice yet. But that would be fun with the SP to throw those like big, long, reverbed out, distorted guitars. Yeah, surf drone. Okay, that could be one. That could be one. How would you define surf though?
It's just the Beach Boys with the reverb.
It's just like sample the Beach Boys and get copyright struck immediately. We probably just got we just got copyright struck for mentioning their name. Yeah, looks like there's a lot of surf. All right, give me your definition of surf, guys, and then
you can tell he's from California, can't you?
Yeah, I am. I live here my whole life. Yeah, and I just want to cover too. We had a couple of people mentioning what they've been up to. Bendu says that he hasn't pulled the trigger yet on a new laptop. He's a bit bogged down trying to choose an interface for live use. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Do you have any choices you're weighing, Bendu?
That's what I want to know. Yeah.
Use an SP404 like me. That's
the way to do it. That's all you need. You can connect it with USB for MIDI and all that stuff. So it's you can control what's it called? Synths and things with it. It has the chromatic mode, so you can choose scales to trigger. Like I want minor, major. It's pretty powerful. But, you know, I'll never not sing the praises of the SP404, as you know. That and Supermassive. You know,
I one of these.
Would you believe I haven't downloaded that yet?
Have you not?
No.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
I really want
to.
Well, I'll be using this rig for the live stream, not the. That's one thing I don't need another headache for trying to incorporate that. But with that, I'm going to be able to use my phones as the camera. So I'll have multiple much higher quality cameras than the one that I've been using for live streams. But yeah, I think Surf Ambient's going to be one of the options. So if you guys really want that, check for the vote on Sunday. That's when it's going to start.
I just want to live. I want to visit. I don't want to live. I want to visit an alternative reality where you don't like the SP404. I don't want to see.
I'm like an MPC fan or something. No, even like the darkest timeline. All I talk about is Ableton.
I would love to see that. I would love to see that.
Was it Spock in the original series that when they went to the mirror universe, he just had a goatee? I'd be clean shaven and just talk about Ableton. Okay, so we've got some definition of surf, evoking the sounds of crashing waves. Maybe I'll throw some waves into the sampler if that's what gets voted for, because I did rain in the last one. So yeah. So Bendu's looking at the Universal Audio or a Motu. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Those are his top picks. And Survey Channel says that the Audient is solid. I don't know any of those, so yeah, I'm just reading off. But Bendu says it's tough trying to anticipate future needs. And I'm assuming this is for the Ableton, but Frequency Control Center says no.
I'd like to see that. Very much. I would like to see. So yeah.
Oh God! Then I have to use this one because I don't know if my Waves subscription or not subscription, God no, but if my Waves plugins will translate over to the new one. Yeah, we'll see.
You've got to get a voice sample in there, something like a hang 10 or a whoa dude kind of thing.
Find me a sample and give it. But again, that has to be what wins the vote because
I'll make it. Everyone go vote.
The people decide. So
I like it. We will be back next week with more fun, more news, more round robins, more marketing, and more chats and shenanigans and but lots of bollocks as well, I imagine, because that's what we do best. Thank you ever so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. We'd love chatting with you guys and seeing what you're up to. Yeah, we will see you next week. Sunwalker, you got anything to add to that?
Just if you're looking for any new music, you can head to the playlist link in the description. The Audionautic Radio playlist. It's got the latest in ambient, electronic, chill, independent artists. Our label mate Frequency Control Center is on there, and a bunch of other tunes. And if you have anything you want to submit, just send it either to me on Instagram or Twitter, or to the Audionautic Twitter. And yeah, we'll go from there. Eon Lake, anything you want to add?
No, just thanks to everyone in the chat, keeping us company as usual, keeping it lively.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.